This is KAMR Local 4 News.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to your local election headquarters. I'm Erin Rosas with KAMR Local 4 News, myhighplains.com, Fox 14, and I am here with David Gay, digital content producer and reporter at same thing, My High Plains, everything, KAMR and Fox 14. Who do we have in studio with us, David?
We have Jackie Kingston, KAMR Local 4 News anchor and executive producer here with us. It is that time. We've been leading up to this for the past, it seems like 2 months, and it's finally here. It's election day. We already have early voting results from both Potter and Randall counties, and they look pretty similar on both sides, both counties. What has stood out to you so far about these results?
It's a little bit surprising how not close, again, just the early voting numbers we have. And so these are not final, not even close. This is just early voting. But some of these races that we expected to be pretty tight are not. And some of the races that we expected might be kind of more obvious at this time of night are a little tighter than we expected that they would be. So a lot of interesting kind of results coming in. I have Potter numbers, you have Randall numbers, but they're looking about the same. So in the city of Amarillo race for mayor, Cole Stanley is currently winning with 71.16% of the vote in Potter.
And he has about 78.5 in Randall. Just kind of going along with that so far.
Right. And then Councilwoman Frida Powell, who's also running for mayor, Cole Stanley, also a current council member, is in second in Potter with 21.61% of the vote. Again, this is just early voting. How's she doing in Randall?
16.63. And I'm a little surprised about that split margin so far. I would think it would be a little bit closer, but it seems like, I don't know if this was the same for you, but I did see a lot of push for Stanley here in the last month or so. So I guess the split this early does surprise me a little bit, but also doesn't, if that makes sense.
Me too. I think it's interesting. So Councilwoman Powell was first voted in 2017, 15?
Yeah, 15.
15. I was like 6 years ago, 5 years ago. Math on election night, never my fort. But first voted in there, has served several terms in the Amarillo City Council, has been around. Cole Stanley is the most recent member to be voted into the Amarillo City Council. So even though both of them are incumbents, he still sort of represents this new sort of new turn of, turning the page and going into something, bringing new energy to the council that a lot of voters have told us that they were looking for.
And a lot of candidates have also shown that approach too. And it seems like to me with these early voting numbers and that those candidates that express that attitude are leading the pack for the most part, including with a place two, especially Don Tips leading the pack by a long shot, 87.25% of the vote right now early in Randall.
In Potter, it's 82.57 in Potter. And of course, he came out pretty early saying that when the Civic Center lawsuit was coming about and when after the Amarillo City Council had issued the tax notes, obligation notes for the Civic Center project, Don Tips was one of the ones who at a city council meeting said, I'm going to run against you guys. Yeah. And he said he was planning to run then. So this has been a pretty clear line through from when he said he was going to run to now.
Absolutely. And then we have seven people running in place one that are going against each other, the biggest council group by far. And in Randall County, we have Josh Kraft leading the pack with 46.36% of the vote. He is a Randall County firefighter, so that doesn't solely surprise me, just with the name recognition, what he does in that county.
Dean Crump is a close second in Potter County, but Kraft is also leading in Potter with 39.26% of the vote. Crump coming in with 35.01% of the vote. So a tighter race in Potter. Like you said, Kraft is employed by Randall County, and so maybe the name recognition is a little bit more there.
And then Crump is also in second. Thank you for that. With about 33.9% of the vote. So we'll be keeping a close eye on place one. Place three. We were talking a little bit at the start of this about how we thought some races would be closer, some races would not be as. This one seems like it doesn't seem as close as I thought it would be. Tom Sherlin in Randall County is leading the pack with 62.3% of the vote with early and absentee voting right now, with Kat Massey coming up with 31.4% of the vote.
Sherlin also leading in Potter County with 53.93% of the vote, and Massey in second with 38.56% of the vote. I think it will be an interesting sort of thing to watch in this race specifically. We know that there was a lot of money, a lot of contributions given in this race. Alex Fairley, Deal On LLC, was a contributor to Tom Sherlin's campaign. And when we talked to him, when you talked to him about that, he had a pretty interesting answer about why he was so invested in this race, but the other races in general as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He said he wanted to even the playing field, and he wanted to just support the candidate that he thought would represent the community the best. And this was also covered during a recent city council meeting where outgoing Amarillo Mayor Ginger Nelson addressed this money head on and called out Cole Stanley by name, also called out Sherlin by name about accepting donations from Fairley's LLC and what kind of potential strings that could be attached with those donations, which was very fascinating.
Knowing that the lawsuit, the Civic Center lawsuit that Mr. Fairley brought against the city that has halted that plan to issue those tax notes of obligation to make those changes in to upgrade the Civic Center, knowing that is still pending litigation, that both parties have filed. Help me with the word there. Appeals. Thank you. Yes, both parties filed appeals, and now the judge is considering what the outcome might be. So that is still tied up in litigation, which I think is interesting, and I think we'll see an interesting sort of discussion surrounding local money going into local politics.
Absolutely. And
if that should be capped, if there should be some sort of, are we happy with the way that this is happening? Are we as voters, we as constituents of these folks, happy with the way that money is given to these candidates and donations are made?
And I mean, we know that changes are also potentially going to be made about how tax notes are used through potential state legislation. It recently passed the Senate and it's going to the House at the state level. So we'll have to see on that about how cities and how entities can use these kinds of this issuance of debt for future projects. And I guess the last council member race that we haven't talked about yet is one that I've gone to say that is probably the most experienced out of the group, with three of them having run beforehand. But in Randall County, the three who have run are not the ones leading the pack. It is Les Simpson, who is leading the pack in Randall County with 47.55% of the vote. Les Simpson, if you may know, is a former Amarillo Globe News publisher. And he said he brings the experience of covering, city government, city council to the table, and would have that approach to it.
It is interesting. In Potter, that is the same case there. He is leading, Les Simpson is leading with 44.92% of the vote. The next highest vote getter there is Claudette Smith with 21.48% of the vote. In the last municipal election, Claudette Smith, of course, has run, is a perennial candidate, has run for many different offices for Amarillo City Council. Okay, has run before, has that experience of campaigning, and brought a recount in the last municipal election. So really interesting developments happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
we run.
Absolutely. And while Jackie runs, I will give you an update on the other races that we have going on. We have Amarillo ISD School Board going on with 3 open spots on the Amarillo ISD School Board. Right now, John Mark Ballou is leading in Randall County and in Potter County with around 25% of the vote. And then we have other people who are also other people who are also in that race include Steve Trafton. We have Kimberly Anderson, who is also in that race, who is a current board president over there. Amarillo College Board of Regents, we have the incumbents are leading the pack in at least Potter County with Michelle Fortunato and Jay Barrett. So that's another race that we have to look at. These numbers are coming in. We'll have election day numbers for you guys here whenever we get them. But I think that's all we have right now.
Hey, we have someone else in here with us. I think we'll just continue our coverage if you want to do that.
Absolutely.
Maya, you want to kind of move right in and we can get you on there. David, if you want to keep chatting really quick, Maya, I'm going to get your information in here just so people can kind of, we are still live.
We are
still, I'm going to get Maya kind of set up. David, go ahead and talk a little bit
Absolutely.
about the different candidates and what you think you're seeing from them on the campaign trail, if they did anything significant.
Oh, I mean, with this particular election, we talked with Aaron Favor yesterday about how schools in this particular election have been focused on. People have really embraced the politics of either being on the school board, being on the board of regents, and it seems like with the early voting numbers that have come in so far, people have embraced those candidates who bring something different to the table, bring that different approach. With Amarillo College Board of Regents, for example, we have the two incumbents who are leading or who are almost close to the top of the pack. But then we also have Irene Hughes, who has marketed herself as a fiscal conservative, as a different approach to the board. She's also leading in Randall County with 23% of the vote, and then you have her in Potter County with 20% of the vote. So it shows that people are wanting that change. Definitely in Canyon ISD, it's kind of different with Canyon ISD and than Amarillo ISD in Amarillo College, where we have specific races between school board members in Canyon ISD. For place 2, we have incumbent Catherine Wiegand with 50.55% of the vote, going up against Jody Davis, who has 49.45% of the vote in Randall County. So they're going toe-to-toe right now, at least with early voting and absentee ballots. I want to bring in Maya Clark, who is one of our anchors at Fox 14 and a reporter here. How are you, Maya?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just going with the flow here. So I know we last year when you were on OBS election coverage,
Right.
It was your first time, I guess, being for election coverage here in Amarillo. Tell me a little bit about from last time to this time, what have you learned, I guess, about how politics is approached and how the election season is approached here?
I think it's definitely been different because I'm from Tallahassee, so it's not it's not a huge city, but it's still pretty big, and so here everyone really does know everyone.
Yeah.
And so I think that you see that the community is really invested, even in local elections. It's not just when there's a gubernatorial election or a presidential election. Everyone's really invested, even here at the local level, when it comes to school board and city council. And so it's definitely been interesting to see that everyone has really bought into that. And I mean, literally everywhere you go, you are seeing campaign signs and posters and like yard signs. And so it's definitely been interesting to see how the community is invested here.
Absolutely. And I know that I'm going to go back to one of your stories a couple of months ago. I know that you did the on-air version of that Amarillo ISD curriculum, whenever the parents were getting up in arms about that Amplify curriculum. And it seems like, content curriculum, what is being presented to students, that was a big approach for some of these candidates. I guess, how do you think some of these candidates are approaching that particularly? What have you seen?
I think that it's something that candidates have to talk about because it's what parents are talking about and you're representing their kids. And so it's something that you have to address, whether you agree or disagree with either side of the curriculum and if you like it or not. But it's something that you have to address as a candidate. And so I think that's something that we've seen a lot of the candidates do because they have to. If you want to be on the school board, you have to know what's happening in the schools, what the students are learning, what the teachers are having to teach them as far as curriculum goes and what the parents are thinking, because if the parents aren't happy, then you have to listen to those concerns and see what can we do to address those concerns and to create a resolution for our parents and our students. That way we can have a more effective school district.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to finish up Canyon ISD with early voting and absentee, in place 7, we have Lori Gilliland leading right now with 44.64% of the vote, with Tiffany Rogers close behind with 40.14% of the vote. And then for place 3, we have Casey Posey leading with 37.62% of the vote, and we have Jared Wirt behind him with 31.78% of the vote. The interesting thing about place 3 is that we have an incumbent or not an incumbent. She was a previous member of the school board who was elected out previously, Claudia Burkett. She has 17.73% of the vote. We will be with you here all evening with results, and Maya will be back here later this evening as more results come in. I appreciate you guys watching and being flexible with us.
Thanks for kind of shifting in here at a quick notice. Sorry about that. I had to kind of put your information. I want to make sure people know exactly where to find you if they have any questions for you. So we appreciate everyone shifting where this evening goes. So thank you.
And just to clarify, voting is now closed. We are just getting in results as we have them. Right now we have early voting and absentee votes in, and we will be getting election day results here in starting in about an hour or so.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, and we will be back with you throughout the night. Bye, guys.